Hi everyone, Seth Grimo here again with the Best of Wooster podcast, and today I have some friends from the library here, and they're going to tell us a little bit about what's going on in their world.
Hi Seth, thanks for having us. I'm Jennifer Shatzer. I'm the director of the Wayne County Public Library System.
I am Hayley Tracy-Bursley. I'm the assistant director of the Wayne County Public Library System.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming on the show today. Do you mind, each of you, sharing your role here at the Wayne County Public Library and telling a little bit about what you do? Jennifer, let's have you go first.
Well, thank you. I'm the director here. I've been with the library for approximately 32 years, I believe, and I've been director for about the last 12 or so years. And I'm the administrator here, but at one point or another, I probably worked in every department through the system, and my role is to make sure everyone has what they need to get their jobs done and to work with the community to assess needs and make sure we're going in the right direction and spread the joy of library, reading, education, learning in our community.
Awesome. All the good things, right? And Hayley?
As the assistant director, a lot of what I focus on is programming, system-wide programming that we do, like summer reading, our marketing, publicity, so our newsletter. I oversee a lot of the main library managers and our branch coordinator because we have 6 additional locations and 2 bookmobiles as well as the main library, so it's a pretty large system.
Awesome. Thank you both for sharing that. So what is your personal connection to Wooster and the surrounding area? I imagine that, working in the library, you probably have a couple of those, right?
Well, I am originally from Chicago, but I've been in Wooster, lived in Wooster the last 30 years. My husband also works at the College of Wooster. We're out in the community a lot. I'm involved with Rotary, some different organizations, Main Street Wooster, and we love this area. I'm very proud to live here, and I wouldn't live anywhere else. I have family back in Chicago that still think I'm going to move here someday or move back to Chicago. I'm like, no, thank you. I like the traffic here much better. I think Wayne County is an awesome place to live, to work, we don't have kids, but to raise families. It's a wonderful area, and I'm really proud to be part of the Wayne County Library and play a part in the role in this community.
Awesome. Thanks. And Hayley?
Sure. So being a librarian, I of course have done my family history. And my grandpa is actually originally from Apple Creek and his family was there. They moved there from Massachusetts, I believe, in the early 1800s. So my grandpa moved out toward West Salem to marry my grandma, and I grew up out there on a farm. And then my husband and I moved back to Wooster in 2010.
Awesome. What brought you back?
Well, we were looking for a good place to live, a good place to start a family. And as Jen has said, Wayne County is a great place to be. We now have a little daughter, so we're just really happy with the community, with the area. And we do try to be involved in the community as well. I'm part of Kiwanis. He's a local physician, so I'm sure you'll see us out and around.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. So you both have very different paths into library work. What first brought you into the world of libraries? Hayley, I'll have you go first.
So as I said, I grew up around West Salem area, and we grew up on a dairy farm. I was one of 5 kids, and our closest library was I want to say it was a half-hour away at that time because the West Salem library wasn't there. And growing up on a farm as one of 5 kids, you can imagine we didn't have a ton of money. So to really get access to information and books to read, my mom would take us to the library very regularly. And when I was 16 and able to drive, I would take myself to the library because I worked in town, so I would go there. And for me, it was just always a place where you could go, you could explore any interests that you had. The people were kind, you could meet other people. And I just think it's a wonderful resource that meets so many community needs, and libraries have continued to grow and evolve and change as time has gone on. And I think probably some of the things we'll talk about later, you'll see that there too.
Awesome. And Jennifer?
Well, a little bit of a similar growing up. We spent a lot of time in the library as kids. My dad would take us in this little suburb library that we went to, and to get us primarily out of my mom's hair, I think. But and then when I was old enough to ride my bike, I would ride my bike there. And so I spent a lot of time in libraries, but I never thought of it as a career choice. And when I was in college, trying to figure out what to be when I grow up, what exactly I was going to do, because my parents didn't think I should maybe stay in school forever. So one day, actually, I was looking through some career books, because we didn't have the internet back then, and I was at the checkout desk at the Kent State Library at Stark Campus. That's where I was working. I'm trying to figure out what to do, and one of the professors walked by and said, asked me what I was up to, and I said, apparently I have to graduate. I don't know what I'm going to do. And I was working in the library for like almost 4 years at that time, and he's like, do you like what you're doing? I'm like, well, yeah. He's like, well, have you thought of library science? We have a master's degree program at Kent State. And I kind of thought, well, no, I'm not going to be a librarian. No, that's crazy talk, And but you like what you're doing? And I'm like, well, yeah. And then he talked me into it. He said, graduate, find a degree that you can graduate with. So I did. I put all my courses together and looked to see what I had enough of to graduate, picked one of those, because I took lots of different classes and different subjects. And then I thought, okay, poli-sci, I'm going to do that. I can get my degree in that, and then go to study, get my master's in library science. And then his theory was then you can go to school free, because you get a job at an academic library, and then you can still work on figuring out what you want to be when you grow up without having to pay for it. So that was when I was in grad school. I got a job at a public library as a substitute librarian, and I fell in love with it. I thought, I really, really do love this. And I never did end up in an academic library after I graduated from college. And I love the mystery of helping people solve their mysteries. Genealogy is one of those things. It's every day is different. You never know what questions you're going to get asked, or what you're going to need to help someone with. And so, yeah, I never looked back. I stuck with libraries and public libraries, and it's been very rewarding.
Oh, for sure. One of my first jobs in college, I went to Walsh University. I worked at the library there. And then when I transferred to Kent State University, I used that experience to get a job working at the library as well. So definitely have a heart for the library. I use it personally with my business and with my kids, and my wife's a teacher locally. And so we use the library very often. So definitely a lot of great resources there. So you answered some of the questions on this next one, but how did you guys both realize that this was your calling? Hayley, I'll have you go first.
So I kind of always knew that I wanted to be a librarian, but I was also aware that it is a master's degree, so you have to get an undergraduate, which mine is in history. And I think I was always sort of working towards that goal, but when I was in college, it was around 2008, so it was not a great time for libraries. So I was working at that time at a nonprofit that assists individuals fleeing domestic violence or sexual assault. So I was working there and going to school at the same time and working on my master's. And I think really those experiences reinforced my love of libraries and their role as a community resource, because you see firsthand the need for a place that people can go, people can feel community, have a place to be, get information, get their questions answered. And you also see how much information can really empower someone to make good choices for themselves and go in the right direction. So for me, it was just kind of a lifelong working towards that end goal. And then I eventually did leave my job as the coordinator at that nonprofit to be a part-time children's librarian. I always thought I was going to be an academic librarian with a history major, but I took that job and then I was just like, yeah, this is what I want to do. And, just working with kids, and there is nothing better than giving a kid a book that they love, or really just helping fuel that enthusiasm of learning is it's my favorite thing.
Oh yeah, for sure. I got 2 little ones at home, and just already, they're already falling in love with reading. And sometimes it's the same book 6 times in a row. But you know what? They know how to read that book, and that's what matters. Jennifer, how did you know that this was your calling?
Well, like I mentioned before, I didn't know for a long time it was, and I also didn't know because I came from academic libraries, and that was primarily my experience working, how much public library I'd be attracted to that work. And also how much in the children's department, I never thought I'd like children's librarianship, but at one point I was assigned against my will to be head of the children's department. And although I never did story times or anything like that, I got to supervise those that did. And that was one of the most, it was so refreshing. And I think that it turned my, it gave me more enthusiasm for the life. I mean, I always loved helping people, but when you see kids, and that, like with Hayley, what she was describing, I kind of regretted not going into children's librarianship at that point, but it was kind of on a different trajectory at that time. But that's why I love being able to provide the resources for staff to be able to do that. And I love when I go over and see some of the programs going on, and not just with the kids too. I mean, when I see the craft programs and other, we have people of all different ages coming in and finding things that are rewarding to them at the library. It's so satisfying, and I really feel like we do the good work. And I have said that before. We always, we bring joy to people. We give them opportunities. We may be like the beginning of something, like we're the free version of something that they can come in, they can learn, they can experience. And if they want to go on from what they learn at the library, there are other opportunities in the community that we can connect them to. But we're the first option. Come on in, experience something, learn something new, and it's just very rewarding. And I think if people haven't been in the library in a while, they should come in and see what we have, because there's something for everyone. And I'm very proud of the work our staff does.
Yeah, recently, one of the things that I really enjoyed what you guys did is you did a rubber duck hunt with a 3D printer. And yeah, I mean, I'm a 33-year-old man, and that made me feel like a kid again. I thought that was awesome. I looked around for a little rubber duck in the library. But let's talk about something a little serious here. There's been some challenges that the library has faced, and I imagine you faced some challenges in your career. Can you talk about anything that is happening right now that people need to know about? Jennifer, let's have you go first.
Yeah, there's a lot happening in the library world. A lot of different challenges coming from different areas. Funding being one of those. There's some concerns about, and our patrons have been so wonderful, reaching out to their legislators and talking about why they love the library and why the library is important to them. But I think there are some challenges in how our funding will trying to think of the right word, how our funding is going to come from the state. There's a lot of discussion about redoing how, what percentage of the state's revenue the library gets, or should it be from a different source? Or there's just a lot of discussions. And what my concern is that they say, Ohio libraries are number one or number two, depending on who you ask in the country. But then they'll say this state is the only state that funds libraries this particular way, or I think Hawaii is the other state that funds libraries the same way. Why are you trying to fix something that's not broke? Why, if we're number one or number two, shouldn't other people start funding their libraries like we are? That's kind of my frustration, is that is not the discussion that is happening at the State House. And the governor was very supportive of libraries and wanted to give us a little more funding, because he knows the work we're doing when it comes to reading readiness and how we work with the schools and Imagination Library, our connection with that. And he recognizes the importance of the public libraries in the community. And so now it's, went through the House and it's going to the Senate, and there are just different opinions. And that's a big challenge, right? Number one challenge is just funding. And then related to that, also in the bill are some issues related to materials and what type of materials we have at the library and what type of materials are accessible to children. And so that's another concern. And we've had some of those issues come up here at the library in past years, and it's all over the country, people challenging different materials. And that's been going on though for, generations. That's nothing new. That's always on evolution or creationism. I mean, there have been challenges on those in the past years, or whether it's on materials that having to deal with LGBTQIA, that kind of thing. That's always a challenge in libraries. So, but really funding is the biggest concern right now, because it won't matter what materials you have if you don't have any funding. So we're in the process of that right now with the biennium budget happening at the State House. And And right now, the budget is in the hands of the Senate, and we're kind of waiting to see what they come up with and look at it and what their recommendations are. And there may be another call to action for our supporters to reach out to their senators and again and be positive about why libraries are important to them, or why they've been to their families. Will need people to send that message that libraries are important. And so we're kind of waiting. We're in a holding pattern right now, and then after that, then it goes back to the governor, of course. So it's a long process. It's several months, and it's just the uncertainty of that is stressful for staff and our patrons. But I do have to say, I like to look at the positives. I always try to joke that I'm a Pollyanna, but in the process of this, when we were asking our patrons to reach out to their legislators, we asked people to tell them why they love the library, and we were inundated with letters, emails, just calls. It was amazing, the things people were expressing to us, and it was, it's a good reminder that we're doing the good work and we are important, and we mean something to people, and we're a valuable resource. And there may have been a few tears reading some of those letters. It was overwhelming to us and beautiful. So I appreciate everyone that took the time to reach out to us and their legislators. So thank you.
Yeah, for sure. I think that, a lot of people probably think that, the libraries just have books. But libraries today are doing so much more than what most people realize. What are some of the exciting services that the library is offering right now? Hayley, let's have you take this one.
Sure. So like we talked about a little bit earlier, if you haven't been into the library in a minute, you might be surprised what you find when you do visit. So a few things I'll touch on will be library of things, which is, if you're not from the library world, can be a little bit like, okay, what are you talking about? But to give the short explanation, it's a collection of non-traditional items that you can check out from the library. And when I say like non-traditional, it means it's just not a book. So we have things like a vehicle error code reader, an appliance dolly, pressure washers. I actually had to buy an additional pressure washer because ours is checked out so much. We have yarn ball winders, digital scanners, laminators. We have games. We have a blood pressure cuff. So sometimes you'll get sent home from the doctor and you have to monitor your blood pressure and you don't have a blood pressure cuff. You can borrow that from the library and return it when you're done. And there's no need to buy that. So we kind of look at it like, of course, resource sharing, because that's what libraries do. But those things that you might want to try, or you might only need to use once in a while, that you can just sort of check out, take home, use, and bring back. We also offer notary services for free. You just have to make an appointment. And I just did the stats recently, and we did 230 notaries last year. We also have the Creation Station, which is due in large part to the generosity of Barry Romick, or the Romick Foundation. They donated 3D printers, CNC routers, all kinds of really exciting, fun things that we use in our Creation Station. And we have lab hours for adults, for kids. They can come in, meet with Gigi, our wonderful emerging tech librarian, and learn how to use the equipment, try it out in person there, all at no charge. And we also have something I like to touch on that maybe people aren't really aware of, but is a really needed service, especially I think for seniors in our community, is our home delivery service, which is made possible in part by the Hartzler Fund. If you have a parent or someone with a chronic illness, something like that, where they can't leave their house, we will hook them up with a librarian. They'll let them know what types of items they want to read, watch, listen to. The librarian will get things ready for them, and then we will deliver them to their front door. Our wonderful delivery driver, Steven, will bring them to them with a smile. And two, I think people maybe don't realize the breadth and the depth of free programs that we have at the library all of the time. I think probably every day we have a program happening somewhere, if not multiples. And those are for all ages, cradle to grave. So we have story times, we have programs for school-aged kids, we have book clubs, we have just like special interest programs that you can come and learn about something new. We have craft activity programs for adults, programs where they can come and learn about historical events. We also have some cooking programs that are really popular. Spice It Up Club, where they get a packet of a certain spice and then everybody brings in a dish that they use that spice to make it to share with each other. And that's been like a really great community builder, and they really enjoy their time with each other. And then we also have informative programs, things on investing, things on Medicare, like all of that really important stuff that you need information on. So if there's something you're wondering about, odds are you can find out about it at the library.
Yeah, definitely. And, me as a business owner, actually, I was one of those educational parts talking about health and fitness. So, even if you are a business owner, you can get involved in the library, and it'd be a great way for you to connect with community as well. So now you both worked in other fields other than, the library, in nonprofits, education, etc. How have those experiences shaped how you lead and serve now? Jennifer, we'll have you go first.
Good question. The other jobs that I've had in my life were a lot of retail and working at different jobs, being a cashier or in just different businesses. And I think customer service, I think, was the biggest lesson in that. Actually, it was funny when I was interviewing for library jobs, I was working at Staples out in Canton, and I do have probably an unhealthy obsession with office supplies. So yeah, it does. Like, I mean, give me a Post-it note and I'm in heaven. But I really enjoyed that job, and they actually were offering me the management track for Staples, and couldn't understand why I was going to go get a job in a library or whatever. But yeah, I had to give up my dream of being in charge of Post-it notes forever. But I think actually, being a helper, customer service, helping people find what they want, shaped who I am. And my parents and their work ethic also played a big role in the manager, the librarian, the person I am today.
And you, Hayley?
Sure. I have some customer service experience as well. I worked in the bakery at Hawkins. So a lot of like regulars would come in all the time, and we'd have our guys come in every morning at like 6 a.m. drinking coffee, and just getting to know people, building relationships with people. So I like that, and I think that's really important anytime you're providing any kind of service, is to really meet someone where they're at and really hear what they're looking for and how you might help them find what they need. And as far as like my work in domestic violence and sexual violence, I was the program coordinator of an intervention, prevention, and outreach program, as well as a shelter. So I worked a lot with people who had great needs, who were kind of at the lowest point in their life. So just seeing that need there, and then the kids too, and how they could just use a hand, a leg up, something like that. And I think, working in social services has infinitely like helped me in all realms of my life. How I interact with staff, how I interact with the public, because you never know what kind of day someone is having or what's going on in someone else's life. That has really stuck with me through everything. But I think too, as far as how it's influenced like what kind of leader to be, I think, and Jen is too. I'm really big on servant leadership. Leading in that way is really important to me.
Awesome. Thank you both for sharing that. So what's something that most modern libraries have that surprises people right now? All right, Hayley, we'll have you take this one.
I think, probably just like how much we do. Like, I don't think people have any idea how much libraries do, how much we have to offer. Particularly, like we said, if you haven't been in a minute, or if you just like run in, pick up your holds, run back out. But really, we kind of are like all things to all people in the community, which, as you can imagine, covers a lot of stuff. And we do all kinds of really creative, innovative programming to meet community needs. So I think that's not a very direct answer, but for us, I guess I'll feature maybe the library of things, I think, because that does meet a wide variety of needs. If you're moving and you need a dolly, if you're cleaning your house and you need a pressure washer, you can borrow that at the library. I mean, recently I just added to the library of things an auger. Like, it's a small one, like a 3-inch auger. So if you're putting in some fence posts, you can borrow one from the library. And like, all of these additions and things come from like listening to the community and seeing what they're asking for, and being able to provide that service to them is, I think, what might surprise people.
Yeah, I keep meaning to get that power washer, but it's always checked out. So glad to see that you got an extra one. So with your leadership roles, how do you stay connected in the community, and what do your patrons really need to know? Jennifer, we'll have you take this one.
Well, my connection, what I do to stay connected to the community is my involvement in some different service organizations, Rotary in particular. Also, being on the board of Wooster Main Street keeps me out and about in the community as well. And I think going to those meetings, having those discussions, hearing what other organizations are looking for, what individuals are looking for, I think they're always surprised when they find out, the things that we have at the library. And the second part of that question again, who's that?
And what your patrons really need to know.
What do our patrons really need to know? They need to come into the library. They need to come in and they need to see what's going on. They need to know that we have free Wi-Fi. We have meeting spaces. That's a big question. Sometimes people are looking for spaces to hold meetings. They don't realize that we have different sizes of rooms. They're all free to use. And now at the main library, we have the addition of the Joyful Cafe, which super proud of. And we're working with the Joyful Cafe to help with make possible catering services to people who are using our meeting rooms. So that's kind of in progress right now. But people, especially during the pandemic, needed to get out of their house. A lot of people started working from home, remote learning, and they wanted to be somewhere other than their house doing it. So we've created spaces for different sizes, for different uses, and people need to come in and see what we have. Some of our branches have gardens. And we're going to have one at the main library too. Outdoor spaces, safe outdoor spaces. There's just a lot of different things happening, but it comes from listening to what people are looking for and being part. And Hayley, like she mentioned, she's in Kiwanis, and we have other folks in the staff there in the Lions, different service organizations. And so we can be out there, kind of, what do they call it? Embedded librarianship, so that we're out hearing, but also promoting the library too. And making sure that we are staying relevant. And if you think we're not, come on in and we'll show you how we are.
Yeah, I've been using the library for my business since 2021. It's where I started writing my books. I've done multiple Zoom calls there. I've used their rooms multiple times. I think of all the people, I use them the most, to be honest. So shout out to the staff for putting up with me. But Hayley, with your leadership roles, how do you stay connected with the community, and what do your patrons really need to know about?
Sure. So, of course, I'm a part of some service organizations. For me, a lot of the ways I make community connections is the way that the library works in the community. We do a lot of collaboration, a lot of work with different agencies. For example, we might be having an upcoming kitten yoga to get some kittens adopted. That is coming up. It's an exciting project. I think for me, like building, as I've said before, building those relationships with other community leaders, with other organizations that are out there is a big way that I kind of keep a pulse. And I think too, Jen and I both live and work in this community. We spend all of our time here. My kid goes to school here. Just really being a part of the community, being invested in it, caring about it. And what people really need to know is that we want to see you. We want you to come in. We want you to use the library. You're part of our community and we'd love to have you there.
For sure. And let's say you're someone who doesn't have time to come to the library. They talked about it earlier that they can deliver books to you, as well as that there are some apps where you can listen and read books as well. But next question here. Now, Jennifer, you've been with the Wooster City Public Library for over 30 years. And Hayley, you've made some pretty quick moves to the ranks. How do you both stay inspired? Because I imagine there's probably been some long days, right, where you're questioning life. Is like, this is the right choice? And how do you continue growing professionally? Jennifer, we'll have you go first.
those letters, really. Recently, when we asked the community, I will definitely keep some copies of those close by to refer to look at. Hearing people's stories and hearing their appreciation for the libraries definitely. It definitely keeps my spirits up, and also, I'm reminded of why I do what I do. I also, hadn't gone to a lot. During the pandemic, we did webinars and Zoom meetings and all that it kept up with some professional development that way. But recently I have attended a couple national conferences, and I'm one of those strange people who did it on my own vacation time, because I was turning it into a vacation, and I'm doing it again this summer, and my husband is going with me this time as well. But I did find that very kind of rejuvenating, and it's important to do that kind of thing, and I'm going to do my best to encourage staff to do it as well. And we have our friends at the library have been great in supporting our staff to be able to go to different conferences. I think being around like-minded people, or even not like-minded people, just hearing different stories and seeing what is happening in different libraries, it's exciting. And sometimes I feel like I don't have the time for it, which is why taking the vacation time to do it, actually, it makes me feel better. This is for me. It's a vacation, but it's also energizing me and reminding me of why I do what I do. And then it also lets me do other things aside. Like I snuck off to the zoo when I went to San Diego last year, but I thought, I'm on vacation. I can do this conference and go see some cool animals. And it was a really, really good trip. And being on an airplane with a bunch of librarians, which at first was I thought, wow, this is going to be a interesting flight. It was awesome. It was getting to meet people from around the country and hearing their stories. And I think the stewards and flight attendants were I think we intimidated them a little bit, having a whole plane of librarians. But it was a lot of fun, and it reminded me how much I love what I do.
Oh yeah, for sure. You have to take time to relax and recharge, right? It's just like with what I do in the fitness industry. If you don't let your body recover and you keep going, pedal to the metal, eventually your body's going to wear out. And it's the same with our minds. Your brain is so critical. If you don't allow yourself just to relax and sit on your hands, even if you are a busy bee, bad things will happen. The power of collaboration, I think that's something that a lot of people, they don't really understand until you actually do it. When you see other people are doing the same thing that you're doing and you combine forces, the old saying is, two people or two brains are always powerful compared to one, right? And it's so true. Hayley, how about you?
So the question was about what inspires you to keep going,
Correct.
Right? Yes. For me, I think I get such satisfaction from solving a problem or meeting a need and doing it successfully and doing it well, that gives me quite a boost. For inspiration, I do like to kind of see what other libraries are doing, what's working, what's not working, how things could be improved, that kind of stuff. And I also like to sort of step outside of libraries and see what other community organizations are doing here locally and how we might support them or help meet a need. I find that kind of stuff really helpful.
Awesome. Thanks. So this is a big question, so take some time to think about it if you need to. Of everything that you've worked on, what are you most proud of right now? All right. Hayley, we'll have you go first.
This is an easy one for me. I think, when you're in administration, right, things are a little different because you're not on that direct service line as much. You are with community partners, community organizations, and that kind of thing. But I don't as much anymore get to see kids making those connections with books every day like I used to. So for me, what I really love is mentoring and guiding the managers that I supervise and helping them through challenges and giving them opportunities to grow and really hit stride in their positions. I really love to see that. I love to see someone else be successful.
Yeah, there's a huge power in seeing someone else become better because of your guidance, right? And Jennifer, how about you?
First of all, I loved Hayley's answer. She is great at what she does, and she is a wonderful mentor to our managers and other staff. So we're very fortunate to have her on our staff. So I would say, for me, most recently, being able to improve library buildings, especially the Rittman branch, which was that project was in process when I first started working here 30 years ago. We had a building that was not accessible. We had the upstairs, the children's department was absolutely not accessible. It had stairs to it. So if a mom had a stroller, she couldn't bring the stroller upstairs. A child that had special needs and was in a wheelchair could not go to the children's department. The restrooms were on a different floor. So if you needed to use a restroom, and you had to leave the building and go into a different door to get to the restrooms. And that was a long road to get to where we are today, which is a completely accessible building, and a beautiful building, and something that I think the Rittman community deserved to have. And it was ups and downs and lots of challenges, different versions of how that building was going to be, sharing it with the city, and then it was a long road. So when that finally came to fruition, the challenges that we went through was very rewarding, and I'm very, very proud of that. And then that also turned into an additional project at the main library with some renovation and being able to bring the Joyful Cafe to the library. And if you haven't been there, you have to go. They are amazing. And my husband actually says the chai tea latte is better than Starbucks. So just so you know, everything I've had there has been so good. And the people that work there, the Joyful Cafe is a perfect name for that, because you cannot feel anything but joy that comes along with your beverage. So wonderful people there. And just being able to listen to what our patrons need, and being in the role that I am as the director, finding the resources to accomplish that. I've loved all of my jobs that I've had at the library, but to be the person who actually can bring things to fruition has been so rewarding to me, and I'm just so proud of our staff and what we've been able to accomplish.
It's like planting a seed, right? You plant something, you water it, you tend to it, and eventually that seed becomes a tree. So let's say we had a crystal ball in front of us, and we could see where you would see yourself in the library in 5 years from now. What would you want to see happen? All right. Jennifer, we're going to have you go first.
Well, I want people to come to the library or use the library if it's electronic resources. I want people to see how we work very hard to stay relevant and to meet their needs. And I'm hoping that we continue to have the funding we need to operate successfully. I'm hoping that we just continue to grow and we keep on the trajectory that we're on. I see more of what I see kids that I helped 30 years ago now bringing in, oh my gosh, their kids or sometimes their grandkids. Yeah, the generations of families come to the library, and that people, like Hayley said, from birth to grave, to find what is that they're looking for. Genealogy is a huge area that's only expanding, and we need people to come in and see what kind of resources we have. I think we do what we always do. We go with we move with society. We grow. We just keep assessing and reassessing what we do, and keeping our fingers on the pulse of what people are looking for. Google can bring you back 1,000 answers, but the library can get you the right answer. So I like to say we Google with authority. So if you I want people to realize that if you want correct information, that the library is a great resource to come. There's a lot of misinformation out there. If you want the right information, come to the library. And I think we're just going to keep doing that. The library, we're talking about the library of things, and how I remember when I was as a little girl at the library, we had record albums that you could check out, which have actually come back. You can still, not in our library, but I know other libraries have vinyl collections again, but they had art prints that you could check out. And then, it's keeping up with what people are interested in, and we'll just keep growing.
It's so right that, you can Google things, get million answers, but the library has the right answer. One of the things that inspired me to write a book, especially in the health and fitness industry, is I can't change what's in that book. It has to be right? And Hayley, where do you see yourself in 5 years in the library?
Well, I second everything that Jen said, right? Like, I hope that we are well-funded and continuing to meet community needs, however it is that we can.
Awesome. So let's say we have a listener who's curious about working in the libraries, or they're, feel compelled to rally and help you guys out. What advice would you give them?
Well, thank you, Seth. First of all, someone who's interested in working in a library, I've given this advice many times, which is get a job in a library. Before you go and get a master's degree in library science, experience a library, volunteer, find out what the library is first. I think there's sometimes misconceptions over, what we do in libraries. We're always looking for people to help out and volunteer, and it's a great way to kind of experience. I think there's still in this world a misconception of libraries being a quiet place and we just sit around and read. That's not what it is at all. It's I like to say we are always like being Nancy Drew, have mysteries everywhere, and we're very busy. You never know from one minute to the next what you might be working on. But I think people need to, come in and experience it so you can see if it's something that you would be interested in doing, and then possibly pursuing a degree if that's the direction you want to go. But there's a lot of things to do in a library that don't require that degree as well. But then what was the second part? Was about asking what our library to help us to rally behind. I think come in and find out what it is we need. And we have a lot of ways that we try to connect with our patrons, especially on social media. When we have needed help, we've put the calls for assistance, calls to action out on Facebook and but it's Instagram. I was an email. Yeah, we have an email newsletter that we send out to sign up for that. If you're interested in hearing what our needs are, we try to get that information out those ways and spread the word about what you use a library for. If you've borrowed that power washer, tell your neighbor about it. That's where you got from the library. Tell your family about it. Get the word out about the things that you've used the library for. And sometimes on Facebook, there's always that question, I need to find a notary. And I'm sometimes, go to the library, give us a call, make an appointment for, we have it. So spread the word, friends and family, what you've done with the library, the Libby, how you've saved money. The return on investment with using your library is incredible. I think it's something for every $1, you get a $5 return on investment. And that's a statewide. I think it's actually higher for Wayne County. We looked that up. I haven't done it recently, but it was higher than the $5. So yeah, it's tell your neighbors, tell your family what you use the library for, and it's my best advice.
So who are some people in your life that have helped you along the way? Any mentors, family members, or colleagues that you'd want to acknowledge? Hayley, we'll have you go first.
Of course, my parents, John and Joanne Tracy, and my grandparents. And I think too, every person that you meet, right, leaves you with something. And that's kind of a philosophy that I try and instill in my daily life, right? So every time you meet someone, you leave with something. And you always want to make sure that people leave meeting with you feeling good. But I think I have learned something from every person that I've ever worked with, whether that be a good lesson or a bad lesson. But Jen's been an excellent mentor for me. She's a really talented library director. I don't think people really realize how lucky we are. But also, the people I worked with in social work and the people that managed me when I was a baby librarian, I've learned something from everyone that I've worked with.
Awesome. Thanks. And Jennifer?
I have to say, I echo what Hayley said. Been a lot of different people in my life, and I do try and take something away from everyone that I've interacted with. My sister is also a library director. And we blame our mother for this because she volunteered at a library when we were kids, and so she's fully responsible for leading us in this direction. But having a sister who is also, she's in academic library. So for a while she was in public libraries, and if sibling rivalry was getting there, it was like, trying to outdo each other. But she jumped into academic, so now we're much better peace with each other. But she has been a pillar for me through a lot of the different challenges with librarianship and all that. And so I'm very fortunate to have her. But I've also I was blessed with past directors that I've worked with, and some of the librarians at Kent State. When I first started working in a library, they had a lot of influence on me, and they made me see librarianship as the rewarding job that it is. It's not a job, really a calling. And I saw that they had joy in the work that they were doing. And they were great mentors, and again, everyone I've worked with has left me with something, and mostly positive. And then I mentioned earlier the work ethic. My father worked in a steel mill for almost 45 years, I believe, and was. It was a lot of info on me. Your work he was proud of the work that he did. He was a hard worker, and he was a good person to work with. He had a lot of loyal coworkers and friends, and that's kind of what I was raised with, and that's what I wanted to do. And I'm proud of the people I work with, and I enjoy the people I work with, and every day I'm inspired by the people I walk in. And Melissa's over there at the reception desk, and she inspires me. She's got a smile on her face and is always willing to jump in and help. And every person from our delivery drivers to Hayley to our patrons, they all inspire me.
Awesome. Yeah, and let's continue to be inspired. So let's ask some funner questions now. So it's Friday night, which is ironic because we're recording this on a Friday. You're heading out for dinner or takeout. Where are you going? Hayley, we'll have you go first.
So we get takeout because I have a 2-year-old, and we're not really that brave yet to start taking her out places. So some of my favorites, my personal favorites, would be like curry pot. I love curry pot. Also Bosco's Pizza. I'm a big fan. Basil. So I love all food, really. We go through the rotation, right? But yeah, curry pot is definitely one of my favorites.
Awesome. Yeah. We actually had Blair on the podcast talking about Bosco's Pizza. Yeah, he's a good guy. And Jennifer, dinner or takeout? Where are you going, and what are you ordering?
Well, usually it is takeout, and usually it's basil. And I don't always get the same thing. I love like the vegetarian sushi, which everyone laughs when I say that, but I like the vegetarian version. But also when you mentioned Bosco's and Blair, he joined Rotary, and I was like totally fangirling when he joined Rotary. I think I scared him a little bit because I'm like, Bosco's Pizza. And I'm like, yeah. So another favorite, curry pot I also love. Mariola's. We're so blessed in Wooster with, and I'm a foodie. We have such a great diversity of food, and there's something for everyone. And so that's.
If food wasn't good, we wouldn't eat it. So now you just got home and you're watching a movie. Hayley, you said that you like Jaws. Jennifer, you said you're split between Twister and Spinal Tap. Why are those your favorite movies? 1, and 2, tell us what always draws you to those movies.
Okay, so I said Jaws, but then I was thinking about it this morning, and I want to also throw Jurassic Park in there. Because to me, like, Jaws and Jurassic Park are like superior horror films. They're like, I don't really like horror, but they are horror films. Yeah. And for me, I think, it's the creativity that went into making them is just amazing. And like, they still hold up because they used animatronics. And like Jurassic Park, of course, has some CGI, but not a lot. But you can like watch Jurassic Park or Jaws like tonight at home, and it's still just as good as it was when it came out. And I think if they have given me anything, it's a lifelong fear of the ocean and dinosaurs.
Yeah, we just went to Sunset Beach for spring break, and the first thing that my son says is that he's gonna catch a shark. I was like, "You haven't seen Jaws yet." Yes, and same with Jurassic Park. I mean, like, I remember like being fearful that a raptor was gonna get me. So yeah, 100%. Now, Jennifer, Twister and Spinal Tap. Why those?
Well, Twister, because I love I'm obsessed with weather, just in general to begin with. And I like a good disaster movie. And it's very quotable in a way too. So it's just one of those movies I can have in the background playing and jump in and watch. Jurassic Park is another one also. It's one of my favorites. But I also have a soft spot for mockumentaries. And I do think This Is Spinal Tap is like the ultimate mockumentary. Another very quotable movie. And I somehow managed to bring that into almost all of our management meetings. I don't know how, but I find a way to have a quote or to talk about, this is like, remember in the movie. Of course, I think only 2 or 3 of us have even seen the movie. I'm going to make it required viewing for the rest of the management team at some point. I was trying to see if the lyric would show it because the sequel is coming out in September, and I think they should probably like do a little film festival with it, and I could drag my management team to go see it so they know what the heck I'm talking about. But just something I like humorous. I don't like when I watch a movie, I want to be entertained. Occasionally I'll watch something a serious movie, but a lot of times I just want to be taken away from reality, some sort of adventure, some sort of like smart comedy. My husband can watch some pretty like lowbrow stuff, and I just can't do it. I need a little bit. I need to be a little smarter. I can't. He loves like things like Three Stooges and stuff like that.
It's like Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So that's it. Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, no, I can't. Yeah. So yeah, I like things. I always try to think the other one. Best in Show is another good one. All those type of movies. So fun to laugh.
Awesome. Well, I always like to finish these episodes off with something very positive because there's definitely a lot of negativity out there. What is the best thing about your life right now? Hayley, let me go first.
Of course, it's going to be my daughter, Ren, and my husband too. But my family, always my family.
And Jennifer?
I want to say Hayley's daughter, Ren, as well. I love hearing her stories. She's so cute. But family as well for me. And my husband and I just recently adopted a new dog. So we are in the middle of house training. She's a little dog from the Humane Society. So she's kind of learning what it is like to be a dog. And that's kind of fun watching her come out of her shell. It's very rewarding when I see her tail wag, especially when she doesn't think I know she's like wagging her tail. And I think, okay, she's starting to feel a little more comfortable and she's happy. So yeah, that's our adventure right now, but family is really important to us. And again, Ren, super cute. Here's some Ren stories. It always makes me feel good.
For sure. Family is everything. Well, thank you both for being on the show and telling us more about what the library has to offer, a little bit about your backgrounds and what is affecting the library right now. So that way, our listeners can learn how to support the library. If you need any other contact information, you can reach out to myself, Seth Scrimo, at 330-221-1547. Thanks. Bye.